So here Kapila Muni is continuing to instruct his mother instructions on devotional service, instruction on execution of devotional service. That's a chapter name. So the instructions pertain to, just like in the previous verse we heard, yogasya lakshanam vakshe sabijasya nripatmaje mano yenaiva vidhina prasannam yati satpatam. Prasannam, happily, with satisfaction, with bliss. Yati satpatham, follow in the path which leads us higher in our spiritual life. So, for happily performing these activities which will help us elevate in our spiritual life, what all are supposed to be done, we'll be finding in this chapter. So here we see in today's verse, 4 points are mentioned. Swadharma acharanam shaktya. So, as far as possible, one should execute his prescribed duties. So, what are the prescribed duties? Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the prescribed duties are pertaining to the system of 4 social orders: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. So the society is divided amongst these divisions so that we find how samsiddhir haritoshanam atah pumbir dvijashrestha varnashrama vibhagashaha swanushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. So each and every section of the society, divisions of the society, they must perform their prescribed duties. And by performance of these duties, they will be able to satisfy the Supreme Lord. Of course, they are supposed to perform their duties with the intent of satisfying the Supreme Lord. So there, for a Brahmana, certain specific duties are mentioned. Patan, Patan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. He is supposed to be a learned man, read the Vedic literatures. Patan, he is supposed to teach whatever he has learned to others. Yajan, he should be involved in performing all kinds of activities, yajna or sacrifices meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And then he should help others in performing or involving themselves in service to the Supreme Lord. And Dana Pratigraha, he just subsists on receiving donations, in receiving gifts from others, and whatever excess he has, he does not accumulate but distributes it. So like these, even in Bhagavad Gita, the qualities of a Brahmana are given: Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Arjava, Jnana, Vijnana, Astikya, all of these. This is of a Brahmana, so he should strictly perform these things. A Brahmana, he is not expected to do a duty of a Kshatriya. For a Kshatriya, he is a resourceful man, courageous man, and the duties, in one of the purports of the 2nd chapter, Srila Prabhupada mentions the duty of a Kshatriya. There it is said, he quotes a verse from Parashara Samhita and says, Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastrapani pradandayan nirjitya parasainyadi kshitim dharmena palayet. So he is the leader of the society. He should protect the citizens. Prajarakshan, give protection to the citizens. And then shastrapani pradandayan, he is supposed to hold the shastra or weapons. He should use violence for what purpose? Pradandayan, those who do not care for the law, miscreants, who inflict pain to others, using his weapons, using violence, he should punish them. Then nirjitya parasainyadi, inimical kings who come and attack, he is supposed to go fight with them and win over them. And finally, kshitim dharmena palayet, he is supposed to take care, maintain the citizens, maintain the country, dharmena, out of dharma, according to the religious principles. So this is a duty of a kshatriya. Likewise Vaishya, Krishi, Goraksha, agriculture and cow protection, and Shudra, Paricharyatmakam Karyam, assisting others in their services. So here, each category has got some specific duties to perform. They have been given some specific rights and some specific qualities, what is expected out of them are also mentioned. So they should go or act accordingly. A Brahmana, he need not take weapons and defend himself or protect others. That's not expected out of him. From him, he should be humble, simple, straightforward. Even if his enemies come and ask, he should be ready to tell out all the truth. See, that's what is expected from a Brahmana. But this is not expected from a Kshatriya. He should be a courageous man. Anyone doing wrong, he should be able to punish them, use violence if required, all of these things. So that's what it is said here. Swadharma acharanam shaktya. One should perform his prescribed duties. Vidharma cha nivartanam. Those duties not allocated to him, not allotted to him, he need not perform it. He is not supposed to perform it. Swadharma acharanam shaktya vidharma cha nivartanam. He is not supposed to do another man's duty. Now here, to explain this, Srila Prabhupada elaborates in the purport. So this Swadharma is Varna Ashrama Dharma. If, however, one is fortunate enough to transcend the designation of birth in a particular society or community by being elevated to the standard of spiritual identity, then his Swadharma or duty is solely that of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See how this very much applies in the modern day society, wherein the division of Varnashrama Dharma, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, we are unable to see it. Society, majorly it is divided on the basis of one's economic power, based on money and many other factors also. So here, so what can be done? There is scope for elevating or transcending the four Varnas. So it is allowed. In which case, when one is engaged in solely serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the rules of the Varnashrama Dharma doesn't apply to him, or he need not adhere to those rules. So just like Srila Prabhupada in today's conversation, very beautifully, one devotee brings up that somewhere some people were traveling, or I think it's during the war time. They were all somewhere deep inside the forest. The plane had somewhere, it had landed somewhere in the forest. Half of them had died and another half were still alive, they were remaining. And deep inside the forest somewhere, it took them 18 days to get the nearest village or some home. You can imagine somewhere deep, dense forest, few people, they were just there. And some food they had, and some chocolates they had. So they rationed it out. Some liquid water bottles they had. So for each person they shared amongst themselves. And that was not sufficient for them. And what needs to be done? Few of them, one by one, they started dying also. So one man proposed, let us eat the flesh of the dead men, the people who are dying, because no food there for 18 days. And some other few others, they rejected, no, we can't do this. And there was a discussion, and so this was the thing the devotee brought in front of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says, so here the devotee Yogeshwara, he is proposing, the spirit has left these bodies, so you shouldn't consider it to be quite bad. We are obliged to do this. We must eat this flesh to stay alive, but it's not so wrong. Soul has left the body. Prabhupada says, yes, that is not unreasonable. It was a question of selection. Otherwise, to subsist, to eat the dead body's flesh, that is not very abominable. That can be accepted. But it is the selection whether one will eat. That is another thing. Otherwise, dead body's flesh is as good as anything else because it is matter. So in this way, so here when it comes the question of life and death, our subsistence comes, then it's a question of selection, Srila Prabhupada says. So that's not unreasonable, eating flesh of a dead man. So here we see same thing. Prabhupada reiterates that person for a higher purpose, for solely serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has transcended the social conventions. So let us see some examples for this to understand more clearly of great devotees. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gachanti anamayam. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha. Manishinaha, thoughtful people. Buddhi yukta, using their spiritual intelligence. Manishinaha buddhi yukta karmajam phalam tyaktva. They give up the results, or they give up the attachment towards fruitive activities. Something I'll do with some expectation, following some conventions, they reject it. So there in the purport of this verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions the activity of the great devotee Madhavendra Puri. How Madhavendra Puri, a very renowned sannyasi, how he rejected his so-called social conventions or his prescribed duties according to the social order that we see in the example of Madhavendra Puri. It is said about Madhavendra Puri, Sandhya Vandana Bhadramastu. Sorry, it's not said about Madhavendra Puri. In fact, these are the verses composed by Madhavendra Puri, wherein he says, Sandhya Vandana Bhadramastu. O Sandhya Vandana. 3 times sannyasi is supposed to do Sandhya Vandana, meditate on the Lord during 3 Sandhyas, all of these things. He says, Sandhya Vandana Bhadramastu. All good to you. I will not be able to perform you. Bo Bhavato Bosnana Tubhyam Namo. Taking bath, I offer my obeisances to you. I am not ready for that. Because in fact, sannyasis, they are supposed to take bath 3 times a day. And he says, Bosnana Tubhyam Namo. I just offer my obeisances, I will not be able to take bath 3 times. Bo Deva Pitarascha Tarpana Vidhau Naham Kshama Kshamyatam. All the Devatas, all the Pitas, everyone for whom I am supposed to offer Tarpana, offer oblations to them. Naham Kshamaha. I will not be able to do it anymore. Kshamyatam, please forgive me. Why? Why? Because Yatra Kvapi Nishadya Yadava Kulottam Sasyakam Sadvishaha. Now that I have started remembering the Lord who is born of Yadukula, who is the enemy of Kamsa, Smaram Smaram Agam Harami. Just by remembering the Supreme Lord continuously, again and again, continuously, Agam Harami. Shri Krishna Balarama Ki Jai. Just by remembering the Supreme Lord continuously, Agam Harami, I will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Tadadam manye ki manye name. This is sufficient for me. Why do I require all other prescribed duties or procedures or social conventions? I will not do those. So this is how we see how the great devotee Madhavendra Puri rejected the social conventions, but provided for a higher cause. The sole purpose being to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here in case of Madhavendra Puri, to remember the Supreme Lord continuously. Let us take another example of Srivasa Thakura. Srivasa Thakura, a Grihastha devotee residing in Navadvipa, in whose house Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began the Sankirtana movement in Srivas Angan. Every day, throughout the night, Mahaprabhu along with all of his devotees were performing Sankirtana in Srivas Thakur's house. So one fine day, Srivas Thakur's son, he passed away. Young boy, he died. So as a Grihastha, Srivas Thakur was supposed to perform the ritualistic ceremonies to cremate his dead son and cleanse himself through all rituals and many other things. But Srivas Thakur did not care for it. In fact, he contemplated, he says how when the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself is dancing in my house, performing Sankirtan in my house, where is there any scope for any inauspiciousness here? It can never happen. All auspiciousness is present where the Lord is there, and that Supreme Lord is personally present in my house and performing Sankirtana. He should not be disturbed. In fact, he ordered all the female members of his house not to cry loudly, not to disturb Mahaprabhu, who is involved in performing Sankirtana. So this was how Srivas Thakur, how for the performance of Sankirtana, that was given the priority. Let Sankirtana not stop, let it continue. Whatever, my son, he has died, whatever needs to be done, later we will take care of it. Let Mahaprabhu perform the Sankirtana, let it not get disturbed. This was his consideration. Then one more example we will see in the same Chaitanya Charitamrita about Govinda, the personal assistant, brahmachari assistant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Govinda was involved in all kinds of services, menial services for serving Mahaprabhu. He used to take care of his serving his lunch, prasadam, and he used to make all arrangements. And whenever Mahaprabhu used to go to Jagannath temple for darshan, Govinda used to carry his water pot and go along with Mahaprabhu. So he was doing his services. And one of his services was, every day when Mahaprabhu, after his noontime lunch, he used to take a little nap, take rest. And by the time he went for taking rest, Govinda used to go and massage his feet. So that was his daily routine. So one fine day Mahaprabhu, immediately after lunch, he went and slept inside that Gambhira, small room just in front of the door. And Govinda, now he came, he sees Mahaprabhu lying down there, and what to do? He can't enter the room. If at all he has to enter the room, he should step over Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, cross over him. So he thought for a while, and because stepping over, especially superiors and all, it is not the etiquette to be followed. But Govinda transgressed this etiquette, crossed over Mahaprabhu, went inside the room and started massaging his feet. And then later when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu woke up and asked him, and after massaging for some time, though Govinda used to go back, have his lunch and perform other duties. But when Mahaprabhu woke up, he saw, why are you still here? Haven't you gone, had your lunch? He says, no, I couldn't step over and cross over you and go outside. If you were unable to cross over me and go and take your lunch, how did you come inside? So Govinda says, my dear Mahaprabhu, for your service, I was able to come inside for performing the service. For taking my own lunch, I did not dare to cross over you. So these are some great examples we can find how great devotees, either a sannyasi, a grihastha, brahmachari, whoever it may be, there are many social conventions which are given for them in performance of their religious duties in the society. But all of these can be transgressed for solely serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the intent is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then these considerations of social conventions can be taken as secondary. It's never recommended to outright reject all of these things, reject anything and everything. No. The principle is, or the conclusion is, see, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion he gives, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all kinds of religion and other things and just surrender unto me. So how to practically apply this? Our acharyas, they have specified. Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam. Accept things favorable for Krishna consciousness, reject things which are unfavorable for our elevation in Krishna consciousness. This is the principle which needs to be followed. The Varnashrama Dharma, of course, Varnashrama Dharma is meant for elevating us gradually to the standard of Krishna consciousness ultimately. So we need to follow that. But when there is some disagreement, when there is some inability to follow them or whatever, the priority needs to be set. The selection needs to be done. This or that. In such case, whatever is favorable for our elevation in Krishna consciousness needs to be accepted. If we find these things are not favorable for my execution of Krishna conscious duties, though it may be according to Varnashrama Dharma, social conventions, worldly, whatever society order that is supposed to be done, but if that is not favorable for my Krishna conscious development, it can be rejected. So these are the instructions given to us. So this is about Swadharma Charanam Shaktya Vidharmacha Nivartanam. And the third instruction given here, Daivat Labdhena Santosha. Daivat Labdhena Santosha. Santosha means satisfied. Be happy. Be happy with what? Daivat Labdhena. Whatever comes on its own accord, by the sanction of the Supreme Lord, be satisfied with it. This is actually the same instruction what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. In Bhagavad Gita he says, Yadricha labha santushtaha. Whatever comes on its own accord, be satisfied with it. Similarly, Kapila Muni is telling, Daivat labdena santosha. Whatever by the Lord will sanction it comes to you, whatever gains you get, be satisfied with it. Be happy with it. In fact, just I think last week we were hearing in a lecture, for a devotee, for him to be happy, the minimum things are sufficient for him. What are they? Some prasadam to eat, then some service to perform, and facility to stay in the association of devotees. If these simple things are there, yes, I am happy, I am satisfied. Any other thing, if I get, yes, good, it's bonus. But for my happiness, for my satisfaction, this is sufficient. If you are not satisfied with these things, then hundreds of other things are provided to you. Still, we may be dissatisfied. I don't have this, I did not get this, comparing with others. Unnecessarily we will be put into distress. We will be dissatisfied, morose, or frustration, all of these things it will lead to. So we should put question for ourselves. Are these things available for me? Some prasadam to eat, some opportunity to render service, and association of devotees for me to stay? Yes, I am happy. I am happy. So this is the standard. Because the material world is so designed, padam padam yad vipadam na tesham. At every step, danger is there. And based on karma, something higher, something lower, happiness, distress, this duality, everywhere we can find. Someone more intelligent, less intelligent, happiness, distress, cold, heat, ninda and stuti, some glorification will be there, sometimes chastisement will be there, sometimes profit will be there, loss will be there. This world is full of these dualities. So irrespective of any of these things, a devotee with these minimum things, he is happy, he is satisfied. All other things, even though some whatever difficult situation comes, he is ready to tolerate. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shita ushna sukha dukkhadah. Just like winter has come, cold wind, difficult to bear. So we take some minimum protection, whatever, wear a sweater, one chadar or whatever, and go ahead performing our duties. So winter will come, after 1 or 2 months summer will come, then rainy season will come. These things will keep coming and going. Likewise, sukha dukkhadah. Sukha will come, dukkha will come, more sukha, less dukkha. All these different permutation combinations will keep coming and going. But that should not affect our consciousness. We should be fixed on performance of our duties. For our happiness, bare minimum things, that is sufficient for us. Whatever comes by the will of the Lord, if it comes, well and good, use it in the service of the Lord. If it doesn't come, okay, no problem. For me, what to sustain in devotional service, whatever I have, that is sufficient for me, I am happy. This is a life of a devotee. And then, daivat labdhena santosha. And finally, atmavit charanarchanam. Atmavit charana archanam. We have to worship. We have to render service. For whom? Atmavit. We have to worship the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Because he is Atmavit. He knows the science of spirit soul, the supreme soul, the condition of condition living in bonded condition of living entities, how to reclaim them and help them go back to Godhead. He is aware of this science. He is Atmavit. So unto such Atmavit, we are supposed to worship their lotus feet. Atmavit charana archanam. So this is the same instruction given in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna personally. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Because they are jnaninaha. They know what needs to be done, what is not supposed to be done. They are aware of these things. So what we are supposed to do as devotees, disciples, pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. We have to surrender to their lotus feet, worship their lotus feet. So this is a duty of a disciple. Only then we can elevate ourselves spiritually. So all of these things, why it needs to be performed? We should remember the previous verse again. Let me say, Mano yenaiva vidhina prasannam yati satpatam. If at all you have to, you have a desire to progress in your spiritual life, if at all you have desire, prasannam yati, happily perform or happily lead your life and advance in your whatever spiritual path, then these are the instructions which we need to follow. Swadharma charanam shaktya vidharma cha nivartanam daivat labdena santosha atmavit charanachana. So with this we'll conclude. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,